Boba Fett will not be in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, and this legendary bounty hunter has been put on the shelf, and we might not be seeing him for a very long time?
No. It's not true. That's impossible!
Star Wars fans are losing their minds this morning as news just broke from Temuera Morrison himself, the actor who plays Boba Fett, that his character will not be in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, and this is all happening because of the audience's reception to the Book of Boba Fett. Temuera Morrison makes us believe that we might not be seeing Boba Fett for quite some time, shutting down all fans' hopes of seeing a second season of the Book of Boba Fett and a possible appearance of the bounty hunter in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, which hits theaters on May 22nd, 2026. Now, what this news means for the future of Star Wars content inside this Mandoverse era is huge, because Boba Fett was being set up as one of the key characters in the upcoming possible Mando trilogy that will see Grand Admiral Thrawn as the main villain, as he is the heir to the Empire. So let's start where all this news came from. The actor for Boba Fett, Temuera Morrison. At Fan Expo Chicago over this weekend, there was a panel for Temuera Morrison called From Clone Troopers to Bounty Hunters. This was a panel like many others at conventions where Temuera Morrison comes out on stage and gets asked questions, talking about his history as the character of Boba Fett and Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones, and celebrating his history in the Star Wars galaxy. However, we did not expect to be getting some pretty bad news, as he was asked if Boba Fett would appear in the upcoming Mando and Grogu movie that just started filming recently, and his response was, "I'm still waiting for a phone call, to be quite honest. I think we are just put on the shelf for a little bit. Maybe we'll come off the shelf later." This is not what Star Wars fans wanted to hear. The Mandalorian and Grogu movie is still very far away. Like I said, it just started filming and the release date isn't until 2026. And we know nothing about the plot of this upcoming movie. But many fans, myself included, were hoping that Boba Fett would be involved in that plot. Him and the Mandalorian himself, Din Djarin, go way back, helping each other out time and time again. It would only make sense to bring Boba Fett back to the big screen for the first time since 1983. When he fell into the Sarlacc pit in Return of the Jedi. But according to Temuera, he hasn't received a phone call yet. Now you might be saying,
"And Mike, we've heard this a million times before. Actors lie."
And although that is true, a lot of actors do lie when they're asked about being in an upcoming project because they don't want to spoil it. Boba Fett being in the Mando movie would be a pretty big deal, and he wouldn't want to spoil that. So if he knew that Boba Fett was going to be in the movie, he wouldn't be telling us. We've seen this time and time again in Hollywood with actors. Probably the most famous one being Andrew Garfield being asked if he was coming back to play Spider-Man in Spider-Man No Way Home, and he kept denying it and denying it and denying it, saying he never received a phone call. And then fast forward to when the movie released, spoiler alert, he's in it. Okay, the movie came out like 3 years ago, guys. If you got spoiled, that's on you. But even in the Star Wars universe, we've seen actors lie like this before. Hayden Christensen, while he was on the media tour for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, was asked many times if he would be returning in the Ahsoka series, which was at the time in development, and he would say no, 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 and well, you know how that ended.
Live? Or die.
Then you have Liam Neeson, who played Qui-Gon Jinn in 1999's The Phantom Menace. He was out here saying that Star Wars is being diluted by all these TV shows, and guess what? He appeared as a Force ghost at the end of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. But the most recent example is Ben Mendelsohn. He said he was never given the call to return as Orson Krennic. And last weekend at D23, the Andor Season 2 teaser confirmed that Orson Krennic will be returning in Season 2 of Andor. So yeah, actors are really good at lying. And they're supposed to lie because 1, they're under contract, and 2, it would ruin the surprise. So if Boba Fett is going to appear in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, we don't want Temuera Morrison to tell us that he will be in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie 2 years before the movie releases. However, I actually don't know if Temuera Morrison is lying or not, because he goes on to talk about the fan reception to the Book of Boba Fett and how that is affecting Boba Fett's return. And this makes me believe that Temuera Morrison is not lying and Boba Fett has been put on a shelf. And it's all thanks to the Star Wars fans. Temuera Morrison himself said, quote, "This show's reception does seem to have impacted the future of the character in the franchise. The Book of Boba Fett, in my personal opinion, I think is extremely underrated. From the Desert Comes the Stranger, which is episode 6 of the series, is one of the greatest single episodes of Star Wars television we've ever received. From Luke training Grogu, to Ahsoka and Luke meeting for the first time on screen, to Cad Bane's first ever live action appearance, Din Djarin in an N1 starfighter, Cobb Vanth. Yeah, Boba Fett's only in that episode for like 2 seconds, but it's still an incredible episode. Now, with that being said, the fan reception for the Book of Boba Fett was not a good one. Fans calling him Beta Fett, wondering how he could go from such a badass entrance in The Mandalorian Season 2 to a guy who wants to rule with respect. A lot of fans have built up this character of Boba Fett in their minds for over 40 years, and were let down when he returned as a hero. Now, there is a portion of the Star Wars fandom, like myself, who would love to see a second season of the Book of Boba Fett. Tell me if that's you in the comments below, because there's endless opportunity for stories with Boba Fett. He was once friends with all these awesome bounty hunters from Star Wars, or at least they once worked together.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
And of course, there's the connection to Mace Windu being the guy who chopped off his dad's head. But that's, of course, if Mace Windu survived Episode 3. Then there's the rivalry between Boba Fett and Han Solo, which would allow us to see more Han, Luke, and Leia. There really is an infinite amount of possibilities when it comes to a Book of Boba Fett Season 2. But most importantly, like I said at the top of this video, there is most likely a Mando trilogy on the way. Jon Favreau is currently directing the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Dave Filoni is already set to get his own Mandoverse movie. And let's be honest, Star Wars does not work in Part 1s and Part 2s. It works in trilogies. So if I were a betting man, I would bet that there will be a third Mandoverse movie, and it will be a trilogy. As Din Djarin, Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, Hera Syndulla, Sabine, Ezra, Zeb, maybe even Luke Skywalker, Leia, Han, will all be fighting against the heir to the Empire, the big blue meanie, Grand Admiral Thrawn. And now you're going to sit here and tell me that Boba Fett and Fennec Shand are going to sit on the sidelines while they fight him?
I don't think so.
So there's one of two things going on here. Temuera Morrison is lying straight to our faces because he's under contract and can't tell us that Boba Fett will be in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, and that there could be a possible Book of Boba Fett Season 2 in the works right now, or he's telling the truth. He hasn't received a phone call, and Boba Fett has been put on a shelf, and we might not be seeing his character for quite a long time. Because if the Mandalorian and Grogu movie releases in 2026 and he's not in it, the next Mando movie is probably not till 2028, 4 years from now. And that could be the next time we see the character of Boba Fett on screen. But tell me what you think in the comment section below. Do you think Temuera Morrison is lying or not? Because although actors say all the time, "I haven't received a call," he does have a valid reason. The fan reception of the Book of Boba Fett was not a good one. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. And did you know we could be getting a new Jedi/Sith character introduced in the next Star Wars live action show, Skeleton Crew? I explain who Jude Law is playing in the upcoming Star Wars show in this video right here.